Welcome back, viewers, and we have arrived at the final tip of 5 tips for better AXSRS reporting in Dynamics AX 2009. So the last tip is to provide a clean raw data export. Um, the the basis of this tip is those everyone has those users who like to manipulate data in Excel. And I know it's cringeworthy to a developer to think of an end user manipulating data, but they will do it anyways. And if you do not provide your report data in a way that's at least manipulable, you will get them incorrectly manipulating data much more than if you just gave them the raw data. So what I'm talking about, if you're not familiar with the data level exports, is when you export to Excel, for example, this report, you will get something that looks like this. This has all these subgroups and everything on it. But let's suppose that you're at this level and now they want to try and graph these invoices, let's say. A more naive Excel user may go ahead and select all these and then do insert some line chart of some kind, and they'll basically get rubbish data. These things here, sometimes they don't come out in the same formats. And they're subgroups. You can't do things like sort as well. If you take this group name and you sort here, you'll see that this merge cell needs to be identical size, even if you do change it. That's not going to sort. It didn't sort the subgroups. You see, it sorted the main groups, and it doesn't work. It doesn't feel like Excel. What you want to do for these people is export this as a flat file. Now, luckily you can do that using AXSRS's data element output field. Now, let me go into the design here, and I will show you that each of these cells has got a data element name and a data element output and a style. What these are for is when you export the report not in Excel format but in a CSV format or in an XML format or in some other flat file data only thing. Now what it tries to do with this auto design is try and guess how to flatten this subgrouping. And it tends to go by the name of the text box, and all sorts of other stuff. You can get it to work with auto, but I recommend just having full control over it yourself. Take everything in your data set data element output to no output, and then just insert a new table, which is itself a flat file that you want the CSV to look like. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to delete these other rows, get my detail row. So this is detail here. And we're going to insert a whole bunch of rows in here, which this is just going to be then a flat data file. So in this table, I'm going to set the dataset name to be demo custom invoice trans, and our first expression is going to be invoice count. And then what I'm going to do on all of these fields, first off, we're going to go into data element output, and we're going to say we're going to output that. So it's going to force all of these to show up when you export to CSV. And then this first one, which was invoice account, its data element name, which this is going to be the column heading when you export to CSV. So that's going to be cust ID. Now you can't have spaces in here, so just recall that you can't, and then it'll work. So invoice account was the first one. Then we're going to go in sort of a format that makes sense. So we're going to go, we had cust ID, now we're going to go invoicing name. The invoicing name is a cust name. And then we're going to go with invoice here. So we're going to have fields invoice ID, the invoice ID data element label is going to be invoice ID. And we're going to go in and we're going to see the invoice date. And that one is going to have a data element output. Just date is fine. And then we're going to have the item, which is going to be item ID. And we're going to have the item name, which is going to be item name. And then we are going to have the sales unit, which is going to be unit of measure. And then we're going to have the quantity, which is going to be called QTY. And then we just need one more. Make sure that we set this data element output to output. And this is going to be the dollar amount, which is going to be line amount. And then the trick is take this whole table and under visibility, just hide it. Hidden equals true. That way this table never shows up on anything that's not a data element output style. And then your main table will, since you set the whole thing to have its data element output to be no output, this will always show up on CSV, and this will never show up on CSV. So you've basically explicitly defined what you want to output when you send this to CSV. Now I'm going to pause the video here real quick, and I'm going to come back after it's deployed, because the preview does not have, at least in my my preview, does not have the ability to export to CSV. So I'm going to just pause it here. Okay, welcome back. We've jumped a little bit. You can see here I had just deployed the report while I was out. That takes a little while. I'm on a very strange environment. I had to work out a couple of kinks. One thing I do want to say that I did forget and notice while I was deploying, not only did we want to set all of the, in this hidden table, we wanted to set all of the values, the data element output to output. You also need to take the entire table and make sure that its data element output is output. If that is auto, it will not show because it's hidden, and so you'll end up with nothing in your CSV. So it is a hidden table. The table is outputting to the data element output, and in addition, each of the lines in it are set as output. Once you have that and you have it deployed, you can export this as a CSV, which is a data output, and you'll get a little prompt here, which you can then open, and it will export your flat file to CSV so that people can break this up and edit and manipulate this however they want. Typically get some little data filters, things like that. Basically just you got the raw data that people can then use and cut up and you know, reuse, graph, put together, that kind of stuff. So anyway, that is the end of the data element style.